Hello and welcome. This is Russ Moody and another Warhammer Battle Report featuring Lord Orcturious and his Orc Warband. And this time he's run afoul of some skaven. So the scenario, it's 3,000 points and it's a basic battle line scenario. And we'll go right on and do an overview right here of the table. And it's a little bit narrow. This is actually my home table. Couldn't make it out to the games for this report. So this is just me and a friend at home, and so the table, it's my dining room table, so it's a little bit narrower, but we just did a little bit smaller deployment zones, and it worked out fine. What you see is there's pretty much three normal buildings. The forest in the corner turned out to be an abyssal wood, so it causes fear. The thing in the very back is a sphinx. It didn't really do anything, and then there's an idol of Gork in the center of the table. A little bit first, actually, I wanted to cover some of the army, some of the lists. The orc list, my list, is pretty much just about the same. I had a friend try out this Skaven list. It's pretty much it's a bit of a fluffy Skaven list. There are no slaves in the Skaven army, and it's Lord Skrulk, and it's kind of a plague theme. So there's tons of censer bearers running around, along with some doom wills. You know, there's no slaves, no hell pit abominations, and no warp lightning cannons. So a little bit of a softer Skaven from that standpoint, and yet it still hits kind of hard. So we'll move right on, starting with the orcs won the roll off and show sides and deployed first, and this is the right flank of my orcs. The pictures, I'm actually trying something new. I'm trying to take pictures from the front and trying to take as many pictures of the front of the units as possible, just to give a bit of a better view of what the models that I'm using look like, that kind of thing. But these are this is the Black Orc Horde there on the right, and next to that is a Stone Thrower, and followed by that, going on to the center. In the center here, you see we have got two chariots, and then next to that is my horde of it's a Savage Orc Biggins right there, and there's somewhat 40 of them. And the next, the left flank is some trolls. There's another rock lobber, and a big unit of 40 some odd night goblins, 10 wolf riders, and the boar boys. And on the very end, on top of this building right there is the Doom Diver. Moving on to Skaven deployment. This is his. This is my left, his right. So we have big 6 rat ogres right there, and then behind them is a unit of poison wind globadiers with an attached mortar, and then that unit right there is 90 clan rats with spears and shields, I believe. Maybe they didn't have. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah. And then right here, moving over there's a small unit of censer bearers sitting behind the warp fire thrower, and then that's a big unit, about 50 plague monks. And next to the plague monks, we have 2 doom wills. You'll notice one of those is an ancient doom will, and then behind that is yet another unit of censer bearers. And then off hanging out over here in the lonely corner is another unit of censer bearers, and there's a level 2 plague priest in those censer bearers. Next, we'll move on. This is the vanguard, and what you can't quite see is where the rat ogres are positioned, but this is pretty much to stay out of the charge range of the rat ogres, so that they didn't get charged turn 1 by rat ogres, and so they just kind of vanguarded over to the side. Moving on, this is Skaven turn 1, and you'll see the Poison Wind Globadiers occupied that house, and then the Rat Ogres moved forward. The Clan Rats also moved forward. And, yeah, again, another picture of the Censer Bearers next to them, and the Warp Fire Thrower also advanced. And pretty much all across the line, they were just advancing. There's where the Doom Wills ended up, kind of behind the house, and then that unit of Censer Bearers also advanced on the left flank. And in his magic phase, in that Plague Priest that was over off on my right, his left, cast Plague used most of the dice to do it, and then got a miscast and turned and actually rolled I think an 11 or maybe it was a 12, and so he lost all of his magic. He lost his magic. He lost that spell. He only lost one magic level, but he lost the plague spell, and so thank goodness, because as you see there, I think it killed around 13 black orcs. I I rolled terrible on that. There were a lot of fives and sixes, and so yeah, almost a third of the unit died, and probably it should have been a lot less than that. This right here is he fired off the Doom rocket, so you see the Doom rocket right there, and it landed just an unbelievably perfect shot. Just it went almost the exact distance it needed to. Landed smack dab in almost the center of the night goblins, and you'll see the next picture shows there's all there's the pile of dead night goblins. I think there were close to 20 dead night goblins from the explosion of that. Just totally made them almost useless. Moving on, this is Orcs and Goblins turn 1, and I decided to charge with the Wolf Riders into those Rat Ogres, and I think what I was thinking was that they were slow, kind of like trolls or the like, and that's not the case. Rat Ogre initiative is very good. So what eventually, we'll get to what happens to these poor. But at the very least, I thought, maybe I'd have one or two survive, and then they'd have to flee after them, being frenzied, and I could pretty much just distract those Rat Ogres. In hindsight, what I should have done is moved within 1 inch and then angled so that he couldn't do anything but charge that unit, and then it would hopefully, force him to take him off the board with the overrun and the pursuit and all that. Is what I should have done, but I guess I thought, hey, maybe these guys could actually kill some of these Rat Ogres, but and notice there aren't any handlers. That was just because we forgot to put them on the table, but they actually do have. There's 3 handlers. And then this is the result. My Night Goblins move forward, and you'll see 2 of my Fanatics actually hit, and they bounce through. And I think I killed, you'll see there's 3-4 models. I got 3 or 4 whole kills out of those 2 Fanatics. So I'm really rethinking using Fanatics at all, because they just don't seem like they pay for themselves ever. And then there's another picture you can see. This was a bit of a long charge. I think I needed an 8 to make that charge in with the trolls, but they made it. And my thought was that there's a -1. The river trolls, they won't be able to hit any of them, and they'll have a hard time wounding. Except for in this unit of clan rats, there are 4 chieftains and a BSB, so there's actually a total of 5 chieftains in there, and then they've got halberds, and so they're just gonna kind of go to town on those trolls. Right here, this is the positioning of the boar boys. They just moved up a little bit. The savage orcs kind of dance around a little bit. I restrained from my frenzy from charging, and the more chariot moved, and then you can see this next picture is that we have the black orcs kind of move partly behind that building, and this was actually tough. I kind of moved and I maneuvered the chariot around a little bit so that if those sensor bearers, if they tried to go around into the flank, then they were going to get charged by the chariot. So, at the very least, I wanted to make sure that those sensor bearers, because if they go into the front of the black orcs, I was pretty sure my black orcs could take them. So I just wanted to. On my magic phase, first thing cast was Hand of Gork, and you'll see that I positioned the night goblins right in front of the warp fire thrower, and then they're going to shoot that warp fire thrower, is the plan there. And then following that, he chose to let it was the small version of Hand of Gork, and then he chose I got this entire game. The magic rolls were amazing for the orcs. They got I think an 11 this time and an 11 the next time. So just tons of dice to throw spells at. And so what ended up happening is failed. I didn't roll that well actually on the Foot of Gork, but still managed to get it off. And it just the souped up version, and it just stomped just like crazy on these skaven. Tried the dispel, but threw like 6 dispel dice or something like that at it, and just rolled really poorly. Anyway, so this is the stomping. Stomped close to 30 of those plague monks just got stomped to death by Foot of Gork, and And even a couple of the savage orcs also got stomped by the foot of Gork before it decided to terminate. And next, you'll see the Doom Diver targeted the building, which actually I'm realizing that actually might be one of the best uses for Doom Diver, as you know they're gonna do D6 Strength 5 hits anyway, and it's really tough to miss a building. So if you got a unit in a building and you want to whittle them down a little bit, I think Doom Divers are a great way to go on that. Right here though is they killed 4 of those poison wind globadiers out of the 5, and then there's the 3 on their panic test. So they didn't. As it turned out, I got no points from it because they didn't run away. And right here, my Night Goblins managed to get off enough shots to shoot down the Warp Fire Thrower. They actually rolled pretty well to do that, and managed to kill that weapon team, so that was a relief. And as was predicted, they killed off those Wolf Riders. They didn't even need their stomp attacks. Well, actually, they wouldn't have got a stomp, which I think was one of the reasons I went in there, but they killed them all off and just at probably plus some, I don't know, they got like 13 wounds, and I think I saved 3, so maybe I almost had 1 standing there at the end, but it was just, yeah, they just got slaughtered horribly. The good news was this was my turn, and so the Rat Ogres could just kind of had to reform is all. And in this combat, again, I think I got lucky. The River Trolls just made a lot of the regeneration saves and avoided, and held up against a ton of attacks by those skaven, and so they ended up standing there and holding for a round, which is excellent. All right, moving on. This is Skaven turn 2. The Rat Ogres charge the Boar Boys, and the Boar Boys flee. They tried to redirect into the I wanted to say the Bull Thrower. It's the Doom Diver up there, and we're short. They didn't have enough distance, so they just ended up sitting there. This is my right flank, and the Censer Bearers with that Plague Priest charged on in, and then the Doom Wheel also moved on in, and we'll see so there's what they did. They moved on in there, and then right here, the other Doom Wheel went to the other side of the building, and actually managed to get pretty close to that chariot. And right there, the remainder of the Plague Monks just reformed and moved backwards a little bit, and the Censer Bearers moved up a little bit just to try and discourage me from charging. And then right here, we'll see these Plague Censer Bearers charged into the front of the Night Goblins. And then this next picture, he managed to get off no magic. He rolled poorly on the Winds of Magic, and so it was pretty easy to block everything he did there. And however, this Doom Wheel managed to shoot down that chariot with its Warp Lightning, and the other one misfired and managed to wound itself twice. So a bit of luck on that front right there. And then this right here, I just have this picture because I thought it was a little amusing. The one Globadier tossed his one globe and managed to hit the Night Goblin, and then managed to wound the Night Goblin Fanatic and killed it. So, yeah, that's a 10-point model that killed a 25-point model. So, it kind of paid for itself right there. Also, you'll notice there's a mortar there, and the mortar pretty much just missed the entire game. This right here, you'll see what happened is the Clan Rats slaughtered the Trolls and managed to run them down. In the process, they clipped and collided with the Night Goblins. And so my Night Goblins ended up finishing off those Fanatics, but because they netted the Censer Bearers, the 2 Chieftains managed to make their way over to attack the Night Goblins, and the combat res Night Goblins to lose. And they had a chance to hold. It was a rerollable 4, but not likely that they were going to hold, but they could have maybe held. But as it was, they didn't, and were broken. And the 4 right there is this unit has Skaven Brew, and so this is actually a frenzied. It's like 80-90 frenzied Clan Rats. But yeah, on the plus side for this is, and disastrous for my opponent, is that they were then forced to overrun, and as you can see, my Savage Orc horde can now see their flank.